The sixth episode of Andor, titled The Eye, was everything I was hoping it would be. As the finale to the second arc of the series, it was basically 45 minutes of build-up, intense action, and consequence that only left 3 members of the team alive. We start with a scene of Nimic discussing Cassian's current role as a mercenary within the larger rebellion. He's come to the conclusion that mercenaries are a necessary adaptation and exemption from his morality, since the Empire has no morals at all. It's interesting to see the most devoted member of the crew making adjustments for Cassian. Mercenaries have been part of the rebellion for as long as I can remember. I'm pretty sure I learned what a mercenary was when I was 9 and I met Dash Rendar in Shadows of the Empire. In war, some compromises have to be made, but there's also a danger there. We see later that trusting a paid soldier is a bit of a coin flip. You might get lucky with someone like Cassian, or you might wind up with someone like Skeen. I think the series will continue to explore compromising your morality with the character Saw Gerrera, because he's someone that decides if the Empire doesn't play by any rules, then neither should he, and over time, his willingness to win at any cost chips away at him both physically and spiritually until there's not much of him left by the time of Rogue One. Next, we cut over to the Imperials and we see the Commandant of the base explain his point of view of the Aldhani people, or Dani, to the visiting engineer from Coruscant, and it's a classic colonial view, painting them all as lesser than in every way. Oh, they're just not smart enough to know what's best for them. They can't hold 2 thoughts in their head at the same time. The idea of using comfort and ease as a manipulation hits pretty close to home. Smartphones and 2-day shipping and Google and all kinds of modern technology make life easier and more comfortable, and at this point, we all know we're being tracked and studied in several ways, and we know corporations treat people like garbage. We know about all the downsides, and we just kind of accept it. Me included, Google pays my bills. And just like last week, these Imperials talk about eventually using the Dani as workers to wipe out their sacred valley to build an airfield. They will eventually deny them the right to view the Eye of Aldhani, all while talking about how cool it is to see. The Eye means nothing real to them, but still they want to ooh and awe at it as they plan to take it away from others. We get to know the Commandant a little more, seeing his family life and also seeing that the Empire isn't just metaphorically fat and satisfied, as Cassian said in Episode 3. The Commandant is outgrowing his uniform while the Dani barely scrape by. He and his family and the Empire itself don't even want to be on this planet. Everyone thinks it's a bad post and they want to get transferred away, but because the Empire can have the planet, they will take it. They trade goat hides for the supposed right to use Dani land, which instantly calls to mind how Native American land was stolen. I loved the engineer asking if the Eye has started as the first meteor flies overhead. Gorn replies that the Dani believe the Eye never truly ends, they just get to see it once every 3 years. The Eye is a symbol of rebellion and malcontent. To the Imperials, it's a visually awesome event they get to witness, and yeah, they also have to put up with the Dani. And they smell, and they're annoying, but hey, it's only once every 3 years. But the Empire is a constant irritation to the Dani. Their discomfort never ends. They are just allowed to express it publicly once every 3 years. Using the Eye as a distraction for the heist is perfection. The build-up to the action was excellent. I was itching for some action last week, but figured episode 6 would be well worth the wait. And it was. Seeing the pieces slowly falling into place after spending 2 weeks with all of our characters made everything that much more tense. Seeing Vel's hesitation before quite literally leaping into the point of no return had me feeling like I was jumping right in with everyone else. But I was not expecting how violent it would all be from the start. I was expecting a stealth mission gone wrong, not our heroes taking a child hostage. Star Wars on screen has classically been more black and white, good versus evil, the light side versus the dark. The films, and especially the animated series, tend to be directed at a younger audience. Young adults, teens, 12-year-olds, as George Lucas liked to say. They're all about clearly spelling out lessons. The Clone Wars literally spelled out out the lessons at the top of every episode. The books and the comics have generally been the place to seek out more nuanced, morally gray storytelling. I'm not saying it never happened on screen, Rogue One touches on it, but Andor feels like the first project to really dive into it. The heroes take a family hostage. One of the villains tries to bargain to let the boy go. I like that the robbery doesn't come across as this hugely noble act. It's important, rebellions need funding, but this isn't the destruction of a planet killer. It's all presented to make us ask if they're going too far or not. And I don't think there is a definite right or wrong answer. It does look like they're attempting to limit loss of life. Vel points out to the Commandant that they're not like the Empire. They're not going to kill anyone if things go smoothly. Loading up all the credits while cutting back and forth to the Donnie celebration outside, I don't know why that made everything feel so much more intense, but it reminded me of the third episode of Andor and all of the people on Ferrix banging on metal as the Corpos converged on Cassian's location. If the eye is a symbol of Donnie resistance, the chanting could be the sound of a reckoning once again, just on a different planet. The same way each individual has their own personal rebellion, each culture has one as well. The eye itself was beautiful and gave me chills. I loved the Commandant telling Gorn he would hang for what he's done, and him replying that he deserves much worse after serving him for 7 years. Great line, and then the Commandant keels over from a heart attack moments after. The guy had to do 15 minutes of manual labor, and it killed him. He spent years looking down on this base and the Donnie, but if he had to actually live like the people he oppressed, both within the Empire and without, well, we just saw that he couldn't do it. And that's when everything falls apart. Shots are fired, Gorn goes down, Terramin goes down, Nimic pulls through and saves Cassian. It's a great action scene made better by the fact that none of the soldiers are stormtroopers. I know some people have been annoyed that we haven't seen them yet. We know we will, but for now we have to look at every soldier as a person. The escape was awesome, beautiful, and intense and exciting, and compounded by the fact that poor Nimic got crushed by the credits they were trying to steal. I was fully expecting him to die on this mission. A lot of people were, but not like this. He holds on long enough to guide Cassian safely through the eye by first telling him to climb, the same way K2 will eventually tell him to climb out of the Citadel on Scarif. Nimic uses the old technology he mentioned in the previous episode, tech the Empire doesn't have, because they never bother to actually learn about the planets they oppress. They want to take every world and make it the same, just an Imperial world, but that's impossible. The very comfort and ease they use to manipulate the Donnie winds up being part of their downfall in this whole fiasco. I need to take a minute to mention Cinta, who is left behind. We last see her walking out of the base wearing an Imperial uniform. She seems to be crying, and I have to wonder if she killed all the hostages. I hope not, but it also seems like quite the risk to leave them alive to point her out in a crowd once they're discovered. I don't think we're meant to know the truth right now. Skeen convinces Cassian to take Nimic to a doctor in a desperate attempt to save his life. I want to believe Skeen actually cares, but the following scene makes me doubtful. I think he was just manipulating things to try to steal half the credits for himself. Or that's what he tells Cassian. I fully think he would have betrayed him for another 40 million credits. Regardless, Skeen straight up says he sees the galaxy as him versus everybody else. With millions of credits, he can afford not to care anymore. He can buy comfort and ease for himself. He's even willing to leave behind the people he has spent months with. Even though Andor is more gray with its morals and storytelling, this is still classic Star Wars. Selfishness versus selflessness. Will you only look out for yourself, or will you look out for the betterment of everyone? Skeen tries to say that he and Cassian are the same, but they're not. Cassian knows what it is to be part of a community, first in his tribe on Kenari and then on Ferrix, and he wasn't the most selfless person around, but he had people he cared for. I don't know if Skeen was lying about having a brother, or if the pain of losing him made him numb or what, but I don't think there's room for such overt selfishness when you're fighting an enemy like the Empire. And then we go back into the morally gray, because I don't know that Cassian had to kill him. I mean, that's not aligned with the light side, but I still cheered a little when it happened. It lines up with Cassian doing some terrible things in the name of the rebellion. I think this counts as one of those things. He is not officially part of the larger fight yet, but he did kill to protect what the rest of the crew fought and died for. He still takes the credits he was promised, he is still a mercenary, but he lives up to the terms of the deal he made with Luthen, even returning the Kyber Crystal. But he does get one thing that wasn't part of the deal, Nimic's manifesto. That was also a predictable moment, but I like it nonetheless. Even though he died, Nimic will help shape Cassian into the kind of man willing to sacrifice his life for the good of the entire galaxy. At the start of the episode, in the scene the two characters share with one another, Nimic suggests that the Empire might start to care about the people who stand against them when their mission is over. And we see that he was right. The Imperial Security Bureau is chaotic, getting ready to retaliate. And then we see the Imperial Senate as Mon Mothma delivers a speech about the Gormans. I'm so glad that that's still being referenced. The chamber is mostly empty, so different from what we saw in the prequels, and the few people there aren't even paying attention to her because they're all getting the news that 80 million credits were stolen from the Empire. I suspect this could draw some battle lines in the Senate. Maybe some senators will side with Mothma now that they see the Empire can bleed. And finally, we see Luthen's sigh of relief as he learns that the mission was ultimately successful. He doesn't know about the people that gave their lives yet. I hope he cares, but the man is still a mystery. I don't know. I wonder if the money will change him. It could make him less reliant on Mon Mothma. Maybe that will drive a wedge in their relationship. We know he visits Saw Gerrera, so maybe he will offer to fund them to hit the Empire in more and more brutal ways. I don't know, and those are all questions for the future. For now, I'll just say this episode was awesome. It lived up to the level of action I was hoping for while still having a lot to say. I think I'm getting better at interpreting some of the themes of the individual episodes and not just the arcs. To me, this episode illustrated the perils of comfort. Comfort is good, but it can be weaponized against you, and it can be your downfall if that's all you care about. As for Cassian, I can't wait to see what he gets up to next. I don't think he can return to Ferrix yet, so I assume he'll have to lay low. We've seen him forced to work with a team towards a greater goal. Maybe next we'll see him make that decision for himself. I like the feeling of finishing an arc of this show and having no idea where the story will take us next. But I should stop talking for now. I've rambled long enough. Let me know what you thought of the Eye in the comments, and come back at 6 p.m. Eastern to join our live after show, no ifs and or buts, to talk about everything I didn't cover here with Molly and our friends at Utini. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for all our Andor coverage, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page for our video reactions and audio commentaries for every new episode. And you can check out this playlist for all of our existing Andor content. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.